We will call this regularly scheduled council meeting to order, and concurrently we'll call to order the Redevelopment Agency meeting, the Southern California Logistics Airport Authority meeting, the Southern California Logistics Rail Authority meeting, the Water Division meeting, the library. I think that's the list. They will all be open concurrently. They'll run concurrently. First item of business, the custom and habit of this council is to open every meeting first with an invocation, followed by a pledge of allegiance. And tonight, the invocation will be given by Pastor Norman Smook of the Zion Lutheran Church. That'll be followed by the pledge of allegiance, which will be led by Girl Scout Troop number 1475. May we rise?
We join our hearts in prayer. Most gracious God, who gives us so freely of your blessings, we call to remembrance in glad thanksgiving your loving kindness and tender mercies for the world in which we live, for its fruitfulness and order, for its beauty and its wonder, and for the life you have given us here to enjoy. We praise you, O God, for our homes, our families, and our friends, for the fellowship we share, and for the love that lifts our hearts and nurtures our spirits. We praise you, O God, for the common blessings of our everyday life, for food and clothing, for shelter and rest, for work and leisure. We praise you, O Lord, for this land we love, for our nation's heritage of liberty and those who serve to preserve our freedoms, for all noble hopes and efforts that mankind may be one in brotherhood and peace. We thank you, O Lord, for your gracious gifts to our minds and spirits, for memory that links us to the past, for hope that leads to the future, for courage in times of trouble, for patience in tribulation, for wisdom in perplexity, for faith in every moment and love at all times. We thank you, Heavenly Father, for the members of this city council, that they may look to you for wisdom, guidance, and strength as they seek to humbly serve those who call this community their home. We know that there are hurting people around us in the high desert. May we always remember that we are blessed to be a blessing, and that we are called to share with those among us who are hurting and in need. We praise you, O God, for your majesty and power, for your wisdom and goodness, for your justice and truth, and for your Son, Jesus Christ, through whom we can have the forgiveness of our sins and eternal life with you. So direct us in thought, word, and deed, that our gratitude may be reflected in how we live. In the name of Jesus Christ, our Savior, amen.
Got Troop? So we'll ask our Chief of Police, Captain Mark Taylor, to lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get into the formal part of the agenda, we have a very, very special ceremony that has been repeated here many times. The originator of the banner program in the city of Victorville is Councilman Rudy Cabriales' efforts. And tonight there are 6 banners to be presented, plus a sponsor appreciation plaque. Councilman Cabriales is ailing, so Councilman Mike Rothschild, a naval aviator himself, will handle the presentation of the banners this evening.
This is for Christine Temison, U.S. Army stationed in Iraq, and her mother Patricia is an employee here. And Patricia.
First of all, I want to thank Rudy Cabrieles for spearheading this program, and I also want to thank the sponsors and Monica Peterson for this wonderful program. This is my daughter's second year of deployment in Iraq, and I'll make sure that she gets the picture of the banner so that she can share it with the fellow with this army over there. And that's going to be a great morale booster for them, knowing that the people back home, the folks at home, are supporting them, cheering them, praying for them, and supporting them. This is a great program. Thank you so much.
And the third person this evening that will be here will be Bill Elan. He's U.S. Navy stationed in Kuwait, and his wife Carolyn that will be accepting. Carolyn?
I just wanted to thank the City of Victorville for their support of all of our military families. Thank you.
The other two that couldn't make it this evening, but their banners will be going up as well, as Sergio Mendez is U.S. Navy, Iraq, and Darren Brown, U.S. Navy, Iraq. Those folks are going. We do have a sponsor. We can't do these without our sponsors. Inland has always been one of the major sponsors in this community over a multitude of things. And tonight, Tony Pena will come up and accept the award for supporting this banner, Inland Energies. Tony?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for each of you. May the good faith.
Councilman Rothschild is making his way back up here. I would indicate, before we go forward with the agenda, that there are some revisions. I will mention it only because it may impact whether or not people wish to stay. There's going to be two items that are going to be removed, and that's item 12 on the City Council agenda, under closed session item 16 under the Council agenda, and item 17 under the Council agenda. So if you're here on those items are going to be removed from the agenda. Also, if you're here on item 3, which is a continued public hearing, that deals with the conditions on the property to be abated by the city at 15760 Cottonwood Street, Victorville. That item is being continued till September 16th, 2008. Because it's a continued public hearing, I will open the public hearing to see if there's anyone who is here specifically to speak on that. But I want to advise you that there'll be no action taken by the council tonight because it's being continued to September 16th. So I'll declare item 3 on the council agenda open. And if there's anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard for or against, pro or con in that appeal hearing, you can do so at this time. Hearing none, then item 3 will be continued till September 16th. Lastly, you're here on the City Council agenda item 9, which deals with the prior Planning Commission action dealing with the parcel map site plan and conditional use permit PLN 07-00106, Development Resource Consultants, Inc., more commonly known as the Walmart matter. We were delivered today 1,900 pages from the appellant. I read pretty fast, but I can't read 1,900 pages between 4:26 this afternoon when it was delivered and tonight. So this item is going to be continued. There is not going to be any action taken tonight because the matter is set for a public hearing. We will in just a moment open that public hearing. I would advise that the appellant will be given 10 minutes and people who are speaking for or against the item will be given 3 minutes, but you're not going to get 2 bites at the apple. If you wish to testify tonight, you can, but you won't get to testify next week at 4 o'clock when this item is going to be continued to. So you can have your choice of whether or not you want to speak tonight or whether you want to come at 4 o'clock next Tuesday, these chambers, where the council will take up the appeal of this particular item. So with that, I will open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard for or against tonight, recognizing that I will be continuing this item with no action until next Tuesday. Anyone wishes to be heard? Yes, sir. Have you filled out a card? Yes, I did. Now, let me feel it. Well, let me get to it. Manny Serrano?
Thank you for allowing me to say a few words on behalf of Walmart. And I am a product of the Walmart super retail operations. I am a citizen also of Victorville. I own several businesses here in Victorville, a retail international franchise on Bear Valley Road, also a service business located on Industrial Boulevard and Bear Valley Road. And Walmart is not only a fantastic retail operation that has the best products for the lowest prices, but I think people have to look at it in a different way too. That it's a great training center, and like I said, I'm a product of that training center. It teaches you not only how to manage people, but it teaches discipline and systems. I have right now my manager of the international franchise is also a product of Walmart. And the reason why I chose him, because he had such great skills and training from Walmart. And he's paid $50,000 a year. So there's a lot of value in a Walmart. In fact, my position is there's not enough Walmarts. Our young people need training. Not all of them will go to college. Not all of them will go to a trade school. And that's where Walmart fits in the community. It affords them the ability to be able to get great experience as a young manager, an entry-level position, so they can obtain those jobs that are coming here to the high desert, like the businesses that are coming to Southern California Logistics Airport, where they need trained individuals. They need skilled individuals who are managers, who are supervisors. And what a wonderful place to be able to gain that training is through a Walmart. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Serrano. And I have a card from Norm Miller wishing to speak on agenda item 9. You wish to do it tonight or next Tuesday?
Mayor, council members, my name is Norman Miller, and I made a comment at the Planning Commission meeting when they passed this item, and I want to make the same comment tonight, and that is that I wish the people that don't live in Victorville would leave us alone. We live on the west side of I-15, and if they don't live on the west side of I-15, I don't think they should get involved with our business. We want the Walmart, and everybody I've talked to over there in the Golden Triangle wants the Walmart. So leave us alone and mind your own business. I wish you wouldn't have to read those 1,900 pages. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. That's the only cards I have for agenda item 9 on the City Council agenda. Is there anyone in the audience who had intended to speak but failed to turn in one of these cards? Then I'm going to continue agenda item 9 until next Tuesday, 4 p.m., these chambers, and for the record, the date next Tuesday is
August 26th.
August 26th. We will now go back to the normal format on the agenda. And item 1 on every agenda that I mentioned earlier is public comment. Public comment is that opportunity afforded by state statute to anyone who wishes to address the council or any of the other agencies that we govern, such as the Redevelopment Agency, the Airport Authority, the Rail Authority, the Planning Commission, the Water District, the Library. It's your opportunity to share your comments on any item that is within our jurisdiction and responsibility. Because under public comment, there's no opportunity to be prepared to deal with whatever may be brought to our attention. As a general rule, this council does not respond to public comment. We ask that you fill out these cards that are available in the foyer and pass them to the city clerk, who will pass them to me. That way, we will have the necessary contact information so that if what you say to us requires us to schedule a meeting in the future, or for us to communicate with you to get information or provide you information, that we'll have the ability to do that. Under public comment, you will be restricted to 3 minutes. And I have the following cards under public comment in the order that I received them. The first is Yvonne Mashack, if I pronounced it correctly.
Good evening, council members, Mayor Caldwell. This is about the 4th time that I've come to this body asking for police special patrols on the San Jose area. We are 1.5 blocks away from Hook Park. We have been experiencing break-ins. There's drug activity. On August 1st, I went to the police department. I asked for a special patrol, which is supposed to last for 30 days. I've done this on several occasions also. There has been no police officers, no police cars, no police citizen patrols, nothing that has come through this month. We've had, like I said, a week and a half ago, a break-in where 4 individuals were captured because the neighbors, called. It's my neighbor. This was the 4th time his house has been broken into. So I'd like you to do something about the police department, the police chief. Maybe we need to bring in someone else because we need help over there. There's drugs in the area. We have the whole park that we have to contend with, and the people that come into the park, 3 low-income apartment buildings, and don't forget the Winco that's going to be open soon, bringing in very unsavory people into the area. I'd like you to do something this time, and don't send a police officer out to just placate me again. It's not working, and we're very unhappy. Thank you.
Thank you. Next in order is Margarita Castro.
Thank you. My English is a little... My request is I want to make a skate park for the youth. We have a little skaters in the street, and the police take the skate. I want to do a safe place for the youth skate, a skate park. I had a letter, I had a signature for the people who want a request for the same. It's my second letter for the Rudy Cabriales, do you remember? I sent a letter to you. This is the reason I came here. I hope this, you take me attention in one request for my skate park, for the boys and the girls, my sons. Sorry, my English is a little, I hope can I leave you right?
Yes, you can leave it with the city clerk. Thank you. Dorothy Miller.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Dorothy Miller. How can this city pass a budget that doesn't have all the figures in it? I am still waiting for the department's figures. Am I getting the runaround? I feel the people should know what was the best way to go for our firefighters. I feel this was a setup and still is. I hope someday we can get an independent audit on the city. I hope with the upcoming election we can get somebody on the council who will look out for the people. The city manager made the employees take a cutback. Why not department heads and upper management, like the city manager? We know that won't happen. But there will be more trips overseas, and now you want to cut the China plan in half from 1 million to 500,000. How about the Chinese benefits? Will those get cut too? And I'd really like to know, with all this going on, with the China situation and all these people we want to bring over here, what are we going to do? We haven't got enough problems now. We're going to bring more people over here, take their money, and then turn around and give it back to them. This is kind of ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. That's all of the cards I have under Agenda Item 1, with the exception of Agenda Item 1 for the library. This time I will turn the library agenda over to Councilman Hunter, who is our liaison to the library. Mr. Hunter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have one card from Margie Simpson. Margie?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Margie Simpson, a resident of Victorville since 1972, and it gives me a lot of pleasure to be here. I feel a little intimidated. I hope the back of my blouse is down and I'm standing correct. I do want to thank each and every one of you, because I feel as if it is a tough job to be up there and be under attack. You know, you're not sure if you're doing the right thing for the city. You're here to provide a service to our residents, and you're paying, or you're spending our tax dollars. I'm speaking in behalf of the library service. I would hope that you will not cut, now I'm getting nervous, cut any of the services from the library, because I feel that I use this service. I see it very beneficiary to all of the members in our community, and I'm just speaking in behalf of those people that work there, and they're very, very efficient. Each and every one of them. I've watched every one of them. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Simpson. Mm-hmm. I can just tell you we don't plan on cutting any services in the library. All right, the only thing we have is presentations or revisions for the agenda. Do we have any?
There are none.
There are none? All right, we have nothing more. It's back to the mayor.
Thank you. Then we will go to the Rail Authority agenda. There are no revisions that I've been made aware of.
There are none.
Then we will go to the public hearing, which is the proposed adoption of Resolution SCLRA 08001, if adopted, would set the annual SCLRA budget for fiscal year 2008-2009. Council has been provided with all of the staff materials. Questions or comments from members of the council before I open the public hearing? Hearing none, I'll open the public hearing on the proposed budget for SCLRA. Invite anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard for or against, pro or con, on the adoption of the proposed budget for the Southern California Logistics Rail Authority. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council, we need a motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Vote. Unanimously approved. We will now go to the Southern California Logistics Airport Authority agenda. I'm not aware of any revisions to that agenda.
No revisions.
Then we will go first to the public hearing, item 3, which is to consider adoption of proposed resolution SCL-AA 08010, which would adopt the annual budget for fiscal year 0809. Questions or comments from members of the council? Hearing none, I'll open the public hearing. Invite anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard for or against, pro or con, on the adoption of the budget for the Southern California Logistics Airport Authority. Hearing no comment, I'll close the public hearing. Invite a motion.
So moved.
Moved?
Second.
Seconded? Vote? Adopted unanimously. We will now go to the Victorville Redevelopment Agency. I'm not aware of any revisions to this agenda.
Excuse me, Chairman Caldwell, there is consent calendar items for the Airport Authority.
Oh, I missed the consent calendar.
And written as well.
Well, I missed written communications, too. Guess I was eager. Items 4A and B on the consent calendar, these have been predetermined to be routine and non-controversial, to be adopted with one motion unless there's a request for removal.
Second.
Vote. Adopted unanimously. Item 5 is a request that we approve a service provider agreement between the Southern California Logistics Airport Authority and Victor Valley Aviation Education Consortium for the authority to provide accounting support services to VVA-EC. No comments, a motion would be in order.
Second.
Unanimous. Item 6, request to approve the lease agreement with the 163rd Air Reconnaissance Wing for lease of Hangar 868. Any questions or comments from members of the council?
Second.
Moved and seconded. May we vote? That's unanimous. And item number 7 is a companion item. It's a request to approve an airport joint use agreement with the Air National Guard. Vote.
Second.
Unanimous. Now I think that concludes the Airport Authority agenda. Move to the Redevelopment Agency agenda. Again, I'm not aware of any revisions to this agenda.
No revisions.
Then item 3 is a public hearing to consider proposed resolution R08008, which if adopted, would adopt the annual redevelopment agency budget for fiscal year 0809. Questions or comments from members of the redevelopment agency before we open the public hearing? Hearing none, I'll open the public hearing. I'll invite anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard for or against, pro or con, on the adoption of the redevelopment agency budget for 0809. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and invite a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Adopted unanimously. Item 4 is a consent calendar. As before, this has been predetermined to be routine and non-controversial unless there's a request for removal.
Move for approval.
That's unanimous. Item 5 is a request to approve a memorandum of understanding with JDP Investment Company to allow the developer to pursue the feasibility of the proposed housing development for a 25-acre site at El Yvado in Mojave, and to authorize the Director of Economic Development to execute the same. Questions or comments from members of the agency? Motion would be in order.
Move for approval.
That's unanimous. We'll deal with items 6 and 7 concurrently. They both deal with the Old Town, Midtown Redevelopment Project Area Housing Funds, and it's a request to approve a loan agreement. One of them in the amount of $750,000, the other one in the amount of $1 million. They'll be reflected by promissory notes. Questions or comments from members of the agency? Not a motion for 6 and 7 combined would be in order. Unanimous. That concludes redevelopment agency agenda, unless there are any last-minute urgency add-on items, which I'm unaware of. Then we'll go to the Water District agenda, and I think our director of the Water District heeded my comments. This is the shortest Water District agenda I've seen in months. Nervous? Item 3 is a public hearing on proposed resolution VWD 08011, which, if adopted, would adopt the annual budget for fiscal year 0809. Questions or comments from members of the council? Not, I'll open the public hearing. Invite anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard for or against, pro or con, on the adoption of the budget for the Water District. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Invite a motion. Approved unanimously. Item 4 is a consent calendar item. Unless there's a request for removal, a motion would be in order.
Second.
Unanimous. I'm unaware of any additions to the Water District agenda.
Additions.
Then we will go to the Victorville City Council agenda. We have dealt with item 1, which is public comment. I've already mentioned the revisions to this agenda. Item 3, which is the continued public hearing on 15760 Cottonwood Street abatement. As previously indicated, this item has been continued to September 16th, 2008. Go to agenda item 4, which is a public hearing to consider proposed resolution 08123, which would adopt the annual budget for fiscal year 2008-2009. Questions or comments from the council before I open the public hearing? Not, the public hearing is open on the adoption of the budget for the city. Invite anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard for or against, pro or con, on this item. I have one card from Norman Miller wishing to be heard on this item.
Mr. Mayor and council members, I just wanted to mention on this, I had heard earlier in the year that there was a plan to try to get eucalyptus paved between Mesa Linda and Highway 395 by the end of the year. And I'm under the understanding now that this is not on the budget for this coming year, and I just want to see if there's any way this could be brought in there, because there's an awful lot of traffic going to be coming on to Sycamore, and there is now, because that's the only way out to 395. You can't go south to get to 395. You've got to go north, so you either go to Sycamore or Bear Valley Road, and we need that street, eucalyptus, between Mesa Linda and 395, because there's a signal there. Make it a lot more safer for the people that have to go on 395. So if there's any way you can come up with that. I don't know what to do, how to do it, or whatever. I just want to ask, to see if the council or the departments, if there isn't a way they can get that pushed into the budget also. Thank you.
I tend to agree with you in terms of the importance. I will ask our engineering folks to take a look at that. I'm not sure what the program is, but I agree it's a needed item.
Thank you.
That's the only card I have on that. Before I close the public hearing, is there anyone else that was here to address the council on the adoption of the budget? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. I'll invite a motion. Agenda item 4.
Second.
Budget is approved unanimously. Agenda item 5 is a public hearing to consider proposed resolution number 08133, which, if adopted, would waive development impact fees devoted to parks and recreation facilities for all new single-family developments within the city. This item is on the agenda at the request of Mayor Pro Tem Allman and Councilman Cabrialis, so I will defer to them on this item.
I just wanted to clarify, we don't have the resolution in front of us, but it was parks and facilities, because there's two different, it's not parks and recreation, it's parks and facilities. There's two different DIP fees for that. So I want to clarify that. And I'm not sure if we, it says just single family, but
Those
you mentioned multi-family too.
Single and multifamily?
I can't remember exactly when we made the motion here, but I do remember that I said facilities and the park, which is two different. And the resolution says parks and recreational facilities. I'm not sure if that's the way they're separated, but when I looked at them, it says parks and facilities under your DIP structure.
What's the point of clarification you want to make then? You want to make it facilities as well?
Yes, and then the other one was
Multifamily.
multifamily, not just single dwelling?
Is that part of the motion?
No, the
Multifamily?
resolution just reads single family.
Okay.
Both.
I don't remember that element. I do remember the parks and the distinction between facilities, which is like the city hall would be an element of the facilities. You're asking that the dialogue is going between the three of us because we were the three that actually supported that issue.
On my part, I distinctly remember that it was the parks and the facilities.
Right. That's motion tonight is going to be for clarification of parks and facilities.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the resolution states single-family residential building permits, it says parks and recreation facilities shall be waived for all new single-family residential building permits issued between May 14th, 2008 and November 14th, 2008 that passed final inspection prior to November 2009. I didn't know that was in there before. All other applicable impact fees shall be paid at the same time of issuance, which I thought they were paid at close, but is this what we did originally? What did we do originally? Mr. Roberts, maybe you can shed some light on this.
The action that was taken by the City Council waived the portion of the development impact fees related to parks and I believe park-related facilities. Our staff's understanding was for anyone that submitted a permit prior to November 19th, 2008 and completed their project within that time frame, because the city currently does collect development impact fees upon the issuance of the certificate of occupancy, which would be the completion of the project. This proposed resolution would say that anyone that pulls a permit prior to November 19th, 2008, but then would have a year until November 19th, 2009 to complete the project. So that would be a change of allowing an additional year to complete the project. And this also would require them to pay the fees at the time of pulling the building permit, which is also a change from the existing action and the action taken by the council on the previous DIF waiver.
Well, I guess the question is, did anybody talk to the BIA about this? Because it was their indication they want to pay at close, not at the beginning. So I don't know if anybody...
I have a note here. It says there's a new law. It's called AB 2604. I gave a copy to Carol Lee. And it says development impact fees shall be paid at the time of the permit issuance or final inspection per recent state legislations passed urging such fee payment flexibility, which is AB 2604. Should the building permit expire prior to final inspection, the applicant or owner shall be refunded all development impact fees paid prior to permit issuance. I gave Carol Lee the copy of the...
I voted against it the first time.
The only reason we brought it back up this time, Bob, was to clarify what Mike, Rudy, and I voted on, because there were so many different understandings of what we were voting on.
Well, one of the things is that when everybody thought you pull your permit within the 6 months, and that permit actually was good for, I believe, for 2 years, but we said do it in 1 year. It's not feasible, to extend it out for 2 years. But if we did it for 1 year, then that would be okay. If you had a window of 6 months to get your permit and finish the project, then for some people, you would have to start way beyond that period to be able to complete your project within those 6 months. So it was either that, or if you have that window of 6 months, then whatever month you pick, then you have 6 months to complete your project. So, but we thought a year would be okay.
Another element to the facility fee, too, that it concerned me a bit, and I thought we had clarification, and maybe this might be a good moment to clarify that. When we talked about facilities, I understood we were going to be not considering the city hall as part of that. I mean, we would be considered, city hall would be part of the deferral, but the fire stations that we were putting in play were not going to be omitted from any fees, because that was an ongoing process that you can't not mitigate the fire, and you cannot mitigate the police protection and the diffs for the traffic. Those three elements, I think, were, I assumed all of us had agreed to that point.
We approved the fire, police, and roads.
What facilities meant. Yeah. Did it mean the city hall? Did it mean something, other things? So that clarification is fine with me.
My major concern still is what I talked about before, and I know this is just clarification, but we just had an individual come up to speak wanting a skate park. I can't do skate parks if we're going to cut fees, and if we're going to cut fees on parks, doing them at all. I think it's a big mistake for us to do that. As Terry often says, if you let the camel's nose under the tent, you're never going to get it out. And I had a developer ask me the other day why I voted against it, and I'll tell you the same thing I told him. Because once we do this, it is going to be a challenge for us to get that fee back in place. We are going to battle every time we go to do it. I don't think we should have ever taken it away. It's a mistake for us. We need those funds to do the things we need to do in this community, and it's going to be tough to do now. So,
I don't think it's going to be that tough to get it back once they start building again and start putting money in their pocket. I'm sure we'll be able to go ahead and get it back.
Well, I voted against it then. Reasons I stated then. What concerns me is that now we're being asked to go back in our memory bank and relive that particular agenda item. I know I made at least one motion, which, based upon the dialogue at this dais, I finally withdrew in favor of somebody's motion, and I don't remember whose it was or what it was, but I know that there were multiple motions that were made and tried, and for varieties of reasons didn't work. I know when we finally got to the point of debating the motion that ultimately passed, my recollection is I was pretty specific in asking what the intent of the motion was before I voted. I can't recall with any specificity what was said. For me, to try and deal with this issue now without having the transcript of that agenda item from the discussions, very problematic. But folks certainly have the right to make whatever motion you choose to make for the point of clarification. I guess I would just hope that there's enough clarity in the motion so we don't have to revisit it. But I, for one, do not have that kind of recall to go back and deal with the gives and takes and the trade-offs that were discussed. We had a substantial staff presentation from our Director of Park and Recreation and Facilities and from our Finance Director. So for me to do the question justice, I would need the transcript, which obviously is not available tonight. Your motion.
Well, on my part, I do recall that I separated the park and facilities. So in the resolution, I want that separated out, so it's very clear that we're talking about the park facility, or the park div, and the facility div fee.
Know what the financial impact and implication would be if the motion as you're now proposing it is adopted? I know we had the financial analysis, discussed it in May, but
would have been whatever the financial analysis was at the time, because we were talking about the two separate div fees.
well, I'll ask Mr. Gargan and Mr. Sullivan, do you have a clear recollection of what the numbers were and the trade-offs? Testified. Hate to put you on the spot, but do you have any feel for what the impact would be if it's as it's now being presented, which is to waive development impact fees for parks and recreation facilities? That language change the numbers that you dealt with in any way? The wording is specifically all. I'll read it so it's clear to everybody in the audience. The proposal is to change the May decision so that it would now read, development impact fees devoted to parks and recreation facilities shall be waived for all new single-family residential building permits issued between May 14th, 2008 and November 14th, 2008 that passed final inspection prior to November 14th, 2009. All other applicable development impact fees shall be paid at the time of permit issuance. Should a building permit expire prior to final inspection, the applicant or owner shall be refunded all development impact fees paid prior to permit issuance. That's the language that's proposed.
The language pertains to parks and park and recreation facilities. It does not pertain. There is a separate category in the development impact fees for public buildings. So this is not a change as to what is or included or excluded. The significance of this change is that the action taken by the council previously required a project to be completed by November 14th, 2008. This will now extend that period for 1 year to November 14th, 2009. I'm not aware that we studied the impact of this by extending it out to 2009. I don't think that was part of the original analysis that was done in the various development impact fee waiver workshops requested by the BIA.
Has there been any analysis of whether or not these changes comport with the statute that Ms. Allman just recently mentioned? I'm not familiar with that statute.
I just gave it to Carol.
Bartnowski, have you had a chance to analyze that?
I have not, but I believe the portion sheet that Councilwoman Allman is referring to deals with the ability to refund a portion of the fee if the project does not go forward, which is consistent with state law, because under a development impact fee you need to have a nexus between the levy of the fee and the use to which it's put. And if the project does not go forward, then in those circumstances it may be appropriate to refund or not collect a development impact fee as opposed to it.
Well, as I understood the statute, it is encouraging or urging cities to not collect development impact fees until time of final inspection, which is certificate of occupancy. The City of Victorville implemented that program 7 or 8 years ago. We currently only collect development impact fees at time of certificate of occupancy. So the language about refunding development impact fees doesn't apply to us because we don't collect development impact fees at permit time. So that statute has no impact upon how the city currently is operating. However, this proposed change in development impact fees would have us, at least for single-family homes, collect the fee at the time of the permit issuance. So now we would, and as stated within this change, if they do not complete the home, their permit expires, and we would have to refund their money. And they would come back in for a new permit, and I guess they would pay the higher fee.
That your intent?
Yeah, if they could refund it and then they come back, it's higher.
Well, I think we need to go back to this. When we were sitting here and Joanne and I made, I think she made the motion, I second, and I was very specific, at least on my part, there was going to be a 6-month window to draw your permits, to pull a permit. I don't think we talked about paying up front or anything like that. It was whatever the process was or whatever the policy that the city had, and I think the building official has that administrative ability to do that. At least that's what I was told. So if you had 6 months to pull that permit, then you pull your permit, and it's good for the time of the permit. I don't know, it was 2 years before, whatever the timing was. 1 year? Okay, so it's 1 year. So if you pull your permit within that 6 months, you have 1 year to complete your project. You can pull your permit out, a month before the time elapsed and expect to get your project done within 2 months. I mean, it wasn't feasible. On my side, I was very specific at the end when I said it was facilities and park and whatever rec, because it's not listed as park and recreation facility. I think it's just park fees and facility fees. And those were separate. And I said those have to be included, those two, because we approved transportation, fire, and police. And that was what I voted for.
I would support this continuing to the end of this year as we had voted on it. I'm not going to support the additional year. That's a brand new element, and it's actually a brand new scope of numbers. Stimulus package was designed, actually, and we're almost given a full year. It was 6 months simply because where we were in the calendar. But the fact is that we hadn't implemented back in January when we could have and should have. So we're basically giving a year's grace there under that motion. Now, if the modification is simply to include in that the facilities in this year, as well as the Parks and Recreation, I'm willing to support that. If it goes beyond that in the extension, then I'm, for my part at least, I'm not willing to support that.
I don't think, we're not calling for an extension of the period when you can pull your permit. It's still 6 months. But anywhere within those 6 months, that was the intent. You can pull a permit with this waived fee. And then whatever the 1 year, that was the life of the permit is 1 year. Then you would have a year to get your project done.
Roberts, currently, when are development impact fees collected in the city of Victorville?
City of Victorville, by policy, collects development impact fees at the time of certificate of occupancy, which is the completion of the project.
Well, I'm going to defer to you two as I did last time, but read the proposed language. You're proposing that all other applicable development impact fees shall be paid at time of permit issuance. Is that really what you want?
That's what the city is time of completion, when you'll collect the fees?
That's not what your proposal is saying.
We didn't put that language together. But we did meet with staff, and maybe that's what they came up with. Although, I personally, if you're giving some, just on me personally, if you're waiving somebody's fee and you're going to give them a break for 6 months and then he can go out a year, I'd like your fee up to front. That would be okay with me.
Let me ask a question, Mr. Webb. Sorry to bother you. Currently, the way this thing is right now, currently the way we did it, they have between May and November to pull their permits. If they pull their permits between that time, do they still have the year to finish that? Okay, so they only had the 6 whatever months it was.
Okay, so then
That's what I thought.
the intent here is to modify this to give them their year from the time they pull the permit, which would be.
See, no, that makes no sense to me. I don't know how to build a house. I wouldn't even dream, but I pull a permit today. I have 6 months to complete a project. Is that what you're telling me, that I have to have my project, if I'm building 12 homes, I have to have them done in that time?
Not necessarily, Councilman Allman. If there were projects that were already underway, because we don't require the payment of the development impact fees until time of certificate of occupancy. So any projects that were already under construction that would have been completed within the time frame would have paid the lower fee.
I don't think so, because when you pull your permit, that's when the fee is established, not when you finish the project.
But we, Councilman Cabrales, we listened very carefully to the tape. We made transcripts of the action of the City Council. We delivered those transcripts to the BIA. That is the best reading of what the action that was taken by the City Council, is that it essentially at the time you pay your fee, so they had up until November 2008, they complete their project, they would pay their fee. That would pertain to all projects, whether they had started previously or not.
Further questions or comments? Not, a motion would be in order.
Mayor Caldwell, this is a public hearing item.
That's right. It is a public hearing item. I will declare open the public hearing on agenda item number 5, dealing with the waiver of development impact fees devoted to park and recreation facilities for all new single-family developments within the city of Victorville. Invite anyone in the audience who is here to speak for or against, pro or con, on this agenda item. I do not have any cards indicating anybody wishing to speak. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing and invite a motion. If there's no motion, then the previous action of the council would stand as is. Going to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion that we adopt the resolution 08133 with the amendments that we separate the parks and the facilities, and that would be my motion.
Is there a second?
The other ones you'd had, unless you want to add to that.
About the single family and multiple, we'll just leave the
Multi-family homes?
Leave the single family homes and not multiple?
You're changing the whole motion from, I mean, really,
Right.
substantively, you're changing the original motion.
Is there a second to Councilman Cabriales' motion? Not, the motion dies for lack of a second. Is there any alternative motion being proposed? If not, then that concludes agenda item 5, and the action of the council in May on this subject would stand. We'll now go to agenda item 6, a public hearing called to hear and consider objections to the notice of intent to adopt a negative declaration for the realignment of Spring Valley Parkway. I would indicate for the record that we have received a letter from the Mack Law Firm regarding this item. It has been made a part of the official record. Before I open the public hearing dealing with the intent to adopt a negative declaration for the realignment of Spring Valley Parkway, I'll inquire of the council if there are any questions or comments of staff before we go to the public hearing.
No additional comments of staff?
Then I will open the public hearing on the notice of intent to adopt a notice of negative declaration for the realignment of Spring Valley Parkway. I only have one card indicating interest in speaking, and that is from Marie Mack, Esquire, representing the Spring Valley Lake Association.
Evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I appreciate that you're in receipt of my letter. I would like to briefly review it for the Council so that you can appreciate the objections that the Spring Valley Lake Association, whom I have the honor to represent, have to your proposal to adopt a mitigated negative declaration tonight. Frankly, we think there's a number of aspects of redirecting Spring Valley Parkway that are worthy of having a full EIR prepared. This is the entryway to our community. We understand we're not within your city boundaries, but as long as that development's been there, we have our way of getting through. You're going to be disturbing the visual aspect of entering a community where more than 10,000 people live. It's not clear at all from the initial study that access and egress for emergency purposes or evacuation purposes is really going to be clean. I mean, we just don't know anything. The statement in the initial study is simply that, well, the mitigation will be in the future. We'll have the agencies that need to be involved look at that, and if there's something that needs to be done, we'll deal with it at that time. For our community, that's a completely inadequate method of addressing how we would evacuate Spring Valley Lake in a time of need. That alone justifies an EIR. Furthermore, one of the aspects that has to be looked at is physical disruption of the community, and certainly redirecting the entire entry into a sort of a forked entrance and exit is a disruption, and there's a fair argument that that could be considered potentially significant. A traffic study contained within an EIR, I think, would really tease out this issue and help us understand better how this is going to affect our community. Most importantly, we're very concerned that the focus and intent of widening this parkway and redirecting it is going to sort of funnel increased traffic and possibly invite people who aren't necessarily Spring Valley Lake residents into drive-bys through our area. There are, pardon me? Oh, I'm sorry. There are a lot of people that do come in and cause disruptions there from out of the community, and we certainly don't want to invite them by increased traffic flow. Again, a traffic study would really help us understand how increased traffic could negatively affect Spring Valley Lake residents. And with a full EIR supported by a traffic study, we would understand more about that before adopting this important action. So those are the basis of our objections. It's set forth fully in our letter. We intend to pursue it, and we hope you'll take your full consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mack. Anyone else in the audience who failed to turn in a card who wishes to be heard on the...
Thank you so much, and again, I apologize for not turning it in. My name is Osmar Castro. I'm the General Manager for Spring Valley Lake Association, and the only thing I have to say is we're not against the realignment. We just want, we want to be good neighbors. We want for the City Council to take in consideration that, that we're there. Only because we belong to the county doesn't mean that, we don't have a say in it. We want to work with the city. We want to work with all the cities, as a matter of fact. And, my doors are always open for Mr. Roberts. If you guys need anything from us, like I said, we just want to be involved in whatever process it takes. And I'm saying that on behalf of my board and on behalf of the 10,000 people that live in Spring Valley Lake. So thank you so much.
Anyone else who had intended to speak on this agenda item but didn't turn in a card? If not, then I will close the public hearing on agenda item number 6 and invite questions or comments from members of the council on the issue of the notice of negative declaration for the realignment of Spring Valley Lake, or in the alternative, the suggestion of a full EIR as proposed by the Legal Counsel for Spring Valley Lake Association. Questions or comments? Glade, Councilman Rothschild wants to hear from you on the proposed realignment.
Traffic specifically.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I believe we have a slide that should... There we go. The problem at the current intersection of Spring Valley Parkway and Bear Valley Road is one of capacity. Some years ago, before the city went in with the Bear Valley Rehabilitation Project, there was a single left turn lane into Spring Valley Parkway. The intersection is challenged because, could we have that slide showing Bear Valley? Thank you. There we go. Some 500 feet to the west of the Spring Valley intersection, there is Peach Avenue going south into Hesperia, the city of Hesperia, resulting in very short left-turn pockets. So about 4 years ago, when we, the three cities, Apple Valley, Hesperia, and Victorville, co-joined in the Bear Valley Enhancement Project, we put in dual left-turn lanes, and I think you can barely make it out there in the photograph. But those left-turn lanes into Spring Valley Parkway are very short, and so when we project the volume of traffic needing to make that left turn to get into the Spring Valley community, at 2015 there needs to be over 600 vehicles per hour making that left turn, and the current lanes are not sufficiently long to accommodate that capacity. Realizing that before development would occur on the vacant land to the west, we embarked upon the concept of realigning Spring Valley Parkway with Peach Avenue. I should also mention that we explored with the city of Hesperia building a median on Bear Valley Road to restrict access from Peach onto Bear Valley Road to right turn movements only, no left turn movements. That would have allowed us to extend the turn pockets for that east to north movement, Bear Valley Road to Spring Valley Parkway. They were not receptive to that, and in fact they have Peach Avenue master planned as an arterial road which continues many miles southerly into their city, and I can understand their desire to maintain that as an arterial connection to Bear Valley Road. The only other alternative for us was the alternative that we're presenting tonight to realign the Spring Valley Parkway to line up with Peach. In doing that, we would leave the current Spring Valley Parkway accessible by right-in, right-out only movements. We would remove the signal from there and establish a new signal at the new intersection, which allows us to accommodate much, much longer left turn pockets, and we'll be able to serve the future needs of the capacity. There was also a safety concern there. We had seen a number of accidents build up before we put the dual left turn lanes in, and while that has been cured, we just see it arriving again in the near future because of the limited length of those two left turn pockets. With that, I'm available for any questions.
I didn't hear you mention what would be wrong with a focused EIR on just the traffic mitigation issue? What would be wrong?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. We believe that the mitigated negative deck sufficiently addresses all of the concerns.
And we haven't done that though yet, have we?
We have 7 pages of mitigation measures with, I think there's over 30 mitigation measures associated with that.
Further questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. McGlade. The action for the council is to consider either the adoption of a negative declaration for the realignment of Spring Valley Parkway or to not adopt the notice of negative declaration and issue other instructions to staff. A motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded to adopt the notice of negative declaration for the realignment of Spring Valley Parkway. May we vote? That is unanimous. We're going to do item 7A through F concurrently with one motion. This deals with Part A, in each instance dealing with the engineer's report in support of the formation of the Street Lighting Assessment District under the Street Landscaping Lighting Act of 1972, followed by a specific resolution for tracts, which I will enumerate, which would order the formation of the Street Lighting Assessment District and authorize the levy and collection of assessments. The items A through F pertain to tracts 16948, 17341, 17356. Questions or comments from members of the council? If not, I'll open the public hearing on agenda items 7A through F, dealing with the adoption of the report and the formation of the assessment district for the tracts just enumerated. Invite anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard for or against, pro or con, on the adoption of these proposed resolutions. Hearing no comments, I'll close the public hearing and invite one motion pertaining to items 7A through 7F. Been moved, seconded. May we vote? Hunter? Out. Items 7A through F are adopted unanimously. Item 8 deals with the proposed conditional use permit PLN 08-00063, which deals with an action of the Planning Commission with regard to a 40-foot tall wind turbine on property located at 16363 Cabrillo Drive. The appellant is Gentile 2. The options for the council are to deny the appeal and therefore uphold the action of the Planning Commission, or to grant the appeal and thereby overturn the action of the Planning Commission. Item is here on appeal, and I don't have a card from the appellant. I would inquire if Gentile 2 is here as the appellant intending to speak to the appeal. Do you have a letter of authorization from the property owner?
Mr. Stanford is actually the appellant. He filed the appeal.
Doesn't say that. But if that's the case, then Mr. Stanford, as the appellant, I'll give you 10 minutes. We do have the materials, Mr. Stanford, that you presented, the photograph, other printed materials that you provided. They will be made a part of the record.
I don't have that one.
Got your business card on it.
Got some more. I'm George Stanford, and it's an honor to be here before you, Councilman, and you, Mayor Caldwell. And I've been a resident here of Victor Valley since 1955. In fact, when I come in the door tonight, I seen Bill Porter, and the last time I seen Bill was at my 50-year reunion at the Victorville High School, 50-year reunion. So I've been around a while. I've really got involved in this with Dr. Tu. He's helped me so much. To think about energy. In fact, I have cut all of my utility bills at least half of what they were before I met him. And I've known him for 5 years, and he's just really a neat guy, and he's really in tune to keeping this planet of ours green, keep it from going black. In fact, I don't know, but I kind of like to show these shoes off. I wore my green shoes tonight. This thing green, I don't know. And I'm a little bit nervous. I haven't done this in a long time, so, but I got probably 9 minutes left, so I'll be all right. I have no monetary value in this, and neither does Dr. Tu. It's only to save energy and to make energy without turning our Earth black. And I'm sure everybody's for that without any problem. And now the picture, how does the pictures work? Because we got a PowerPoint?
There is a PowerPoint display that is prepared if the council chooses to have that
I'd sure like to do that if we
display.
could, because it's pretty important to me.
Well, if you can work it into the 8 minutes that are
Oh,
left.
sure, I can. I will. I'll do it quick. So do you guys, oh, are you putting it on now? Okay, now if we can go to the next. Now, this is just a picture, of course you can see it's a picture, but of this energy-saving device, and they've really, let's see, we're on 3 now. Does it go by itself? Oh, okay, thank you. Appreciate it. And it's the latest in technology. And to me, it's beautiful. Of course, beauty is, as you all know, it's in the eyes of the beholder. Because I look in a mirror and I think I'm beautiful, because that's the way I think I look. But not everybody would agree with that. Now, this energy-saving machine meets all state and the City of Victorville regulations. And as you know, the City Council, or not the City Council, that's who I'm talking to now, the staff has recommended approval of this. And in those papers I gave you, it's on page 2 of the staff report dated July, I can't read that date, but in July. And maybe, have you all read that before? If you have, no use of me reading it again, but I can just read the one paragraph.
We've been provided with those materials.
Have you? Okay. And so as you can see, it meets all requirements. Now, I was reading today, the neighbors, there was 32 radius letters mailed out, and there was 7 returned, 6 was against, and 1 was for, the energy saver. And the reason I'm here and the reason I wanted to do this so much is to share my knowledge I have of these machines, because they are fantastic. And then we have the dealer right here too, Bob Hayes, for any other questions that you all may have. So, go to the next one. Now, there was some concern with some of the neighbors, and I appreciate their concern very much, that this could set a precedence of this device was approved. Well, it's, as you can see on this map, and I'm sure they're not aware of this, that parcel that belongs to Dr. Tu there is a 2-acre parcel. It's one of a kind for, I don't know how far, I didn't even study that. But there's nothing close to that size around there, and that's like the state of California and also the city of Victorville. If you have over an acre, these should be allowed. And then the next The next picture there is an aerial showing the same thing. And you can see the lot size where it's laid out there, and compare it to the rest of the lots around. There's nothing to even comparison, so there's no way it would set a precedence. And the nearest neighbor to the property is 158 feet away. That's the nearest neighbor. Now, the next, there was some concern with the neighbors, and I don't blame them. I'd have a concern too, that there's concerned about sound, noise. Well, I got, and this picture here will show the energy saving device is half of the sound of an air conditioner, and it's a third less of sound than a dishwasher. So sound is really not of any consequence. Now, there was some concern of the neighbors that it would just not look good.
I just want to indicate you've got about a minute left.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to skip this one then and go to this one. Now, some people, like myself, I always felt these things like you see them on Highway 10 down by Palm Springs. They're great big windmills, and they're very noisy, and they don't look real good. Well, this picture right here shows in scale that the big circle there is the ones that's in Palm Springs. That's the actual size. These residential energy savers is the far right one, and that's all to scale. So it's hardly of any consequence compared to what those are. And we're all there was some concern about safety. Well, the tests here show on this machine it has survived 140 mile an hour winds. A normal house will not survive 140 mile an hour wind. So if they're concerned about the safety of this thing breaking or whatever it is, their house will be gone before it breaks. And now I know we're all interested in energy saving because the city of Victorville, I don't know what you guys, because I didn't read it, but I know spent a lot of money on this solar project. Well, that's what Dr. Tu's trying to do with this wind energy saver here is to save our energy, keep this planet green. Now, this is a picture of what it would look like from the front street, and you guys have a regular photograph.
We have those, Mr. Sanford.
And now that's from the front of the street. This is from Seneca Road. Now you can see the energy saving device up there on the left next to Palm Tree, but when you compare that to those power lines running right down there on the right hand side, to me that thing is beautiful compared to those power lines. And of course that will not replace those, but it's a step in the right direction.
Mr. Sanford, I gave you an extra 2 minutes. You need to bring it to a conclusion.
Okay, I will. I appreciate that. Just 1 second.
While you're getting organized, I will indicate we have all of these slides in printed form. They will be a part of the record.
Okay, great. Now, just the last thing. I'll skip to this last one. We're all interested in keeping America, or want to make America, energy efficient to where we don't need to go to any other countries for our energy. That what Dr. Tu's trying to do here is a step in that direction, a big step in that direction. And I just really would appreciate it if you guys see your way, or ladies and gentlemen, could see your way clear to help us do that. And I will close with that, and thank you so much for the extra time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of questions. You are appealing a decision of the Planning Commission. I've not heard you speak specifically to where you feel the Planning Commission's decision was flawed or in some way inappropriate. Is there something in the Planning Commission process that is a basis for your appeal other than what you presented here tonight?
Well, the only reason I did this appeal, because normally I wasn't here at that meeting, but I felt that it was not presented, the same information presented, but I just didn't feel it was presented properly. Because a lot of the neighbors, when I'm reading these documents, they don't understand, or my way of thinking, they don't understand what this looks like, how it works, like the noise level. Everybody's concerned about noise level, and there is no noise. So I thought maybe if we did another presentation, which I'm doing now, well, maybe there'd be a different light. I'm not saying the Planning Commission made a mistake, no. I think it was just lack of us communicating properly, that's all.
Questions or comments, Mr. Stanford, from other members of the council? Thank you. I do have 2 cards indicating a desire to speak to this. The first card is Al Castellucci, followed by Marie Simpson, and in each instance, we would request that you keep your comments to 3 minutes.
I'll do the best I can, Your Honor. Of course, I'm a newcomer. I didn't get here in 1955. I didn't get here in 1957, where I was a captain out of George Air Force Base, and a squadron commander. And my background, just so you know where I'm coming from, is I was an electrical engineer in both application and in fundamental and application research. Whether the audible sound from the turbines will be invasive or not is in question, but I feel that it is invasive in my home peace and rest and enjoyment. What happens, especially when the bearings start wearing and the volume increases proportionately, at what level and at whose discretion and volume level will they be replaced? Who monitors this and ensures compliance? And when you look at the graphs that were shown about dishwashers and air conditioners, I was in that business at one time. I can tell you there's all kinds of different levels, and I think most of you know that from your homes. They can be quite soft, they can be quite loud. So what those numbers indicate on the graph, I don't know. But I feel very confident that we're going to hear that and the peace and quiet when we have it in our home. Number 2, it's been purported that this unit would not fall over. But we all know that nature and unknown and unexpected material failures may create a fallover. When these blades strike the ground or any other object in the area, where could the broken blades go and possibly crash on or into a residence, or the killing of a resident or residents or injury? Further, who wants to look at this turbine with its blades in the full view of our landscape? I didn't want to buy a home and look at turbine blades. I want to look at the landscape. The scale of these pieces, going back to what's in Palm Springs, of course, looks very tremendous, but that's not the reality of those blades in our neighborhood. It doesn't make any difference how much smaller they are in relation to Palm Springs. It's what do they look like in reality when we have to look at them. And last but not least, the approval of this device would set a precedent, even though the prior speaker said it wouldn't because of the acreage size. The acreage size can always be changed, and it become a precedent that would, in the opinion of many citizens and my co-neighbors who we have discussed it, would create an eyesore and a risk to the public safety. Therefore, I ask that this request be denied, just as the Planning Commission has done in the past, and I want to thank you, council members, for allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Castellucci. Before you leave, any questions or comments of Mr. Castellucci? Thank you. The next card that I have is from Marie Simpson.
Mayor, Councilman, City Clerk, General Manager. Both were good speakers for pros and cons, but I'd like for the city to take a different attitude and keep an open mind to further our energy crisis. And I have no idea why the proposal was, or the Planning Commission canceled or denied this permit. But I would like for the council members to take a second look at this and study it. I think there is some food for thought. It's like if I gave a child a glass of milk, I have two choices. The child will either drink it or drop it on the floor. And the probability would be I would hope she would drink it. So I would keep an open mind and not think in a negative way. So I would hope that the council members and the mayor and anybody that's involved would keep an open mind to this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Simpson. Next card, Bob Hayes.
Good evening. My name is Bob Hayes. I'm with Prevailing Wind Power. We are the seller and distributor of these products here in Southern California. Just to address some of the safety issues, as you can see, there's a turbine up on the National Mall in front of a children's museum. This was studied very closely through the National Renewables Energy Laboratory in Colorado. They're the ones who provided the sound information. They did a lot of studies on the safety, and this is really a new innovative product that has not been seen before. In terms of your question earlier, Mr. Mayor, about what we thought was not some of the reasons we didn't agree with the Planning Commission, some of the comments were not about the ordinances, but a lot of them said, I wouldn't want my neighbors to have this. I wouldn't want to set a precedent for my neighbors in my backyard. Most times when I've dealt with planning commissions in cities about CUPs, it's more about, does this fit within our existing ordinance, or if it's not addressed in the ordinance at all, would this fit in with our general plan? From what I saw in the ordinance, it was addressed and it is allowed. My dealings with the staff said, yes, this is allowed. If this particular project doesn't go through, it's basically like Victorville doesn't allow turbines, and that was some of the discussions of the Planning Commission, that maybe we should rescind the ordinance. But as the ordinance states now, it appeared to us and the staff that this would be a viable project. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the cards I have. No, we're done. That's all the cards that I have. Was there anyone that had intended to address the council on the appeal of the Planning Commission decision for the conditional use permit? No, because it doesn't stop, Mr. Sanford. No other cards? Any questions or comments from the council? Then I will close the public hearing. And council, the issue before you as set forth in the proposed resolution under items 8A and B is resolution, if adopted, would uphold the decision of the Planning Commission, or the alternative, if adopted, would overturn the decision of the Planning Commission and grant the appeal. Dialogue from the council on this subject. Questions or comments to staff?
Well, one of the observations I have is that obviously you have a technology out there that is clearly recognized as one of those green energy sources. However, where you put that source and implement it into your plan is an important consideration. If you're out in the more rural areas of the community, I would think that would be more appropriate. I think embedded within the community itself, and where this one is being proposed, to me is inappropriate. I'm not questioning the legitimacy of the idea of the windmill being some source of energy, although my guess is without the tax benefits and other things from the taxpayers, it's probably pretty low on the pecking order of efficiency to your cost dollar. That's not my area, my expertise, or the area of my consideration. My consideration is where that is located within the city of Victorville. It's not in the outlying areas where you have 5 or longer acres. Even though the idea is that if you have 1 acre, it is safe and permittable. It may be safe and permittable, but it may not fit aesthetically into the community. And so I'm comfortable that the Planning Commission had made a proper decision in denying it, but didn't make a blanket statement about just anywhere in Victorville, but in that specific location. So my thoughts are that I would support the Planning Commission's position.
Further questions or comments? Well, I will just comment. First off, I agree with Councilman Rothschild's comments, and I would add that this council is spending millions of dollars to pursue renewables. We're committed to green, and we are committed to making this city as green as we can accommodate within the resources that are available. We have had discussions about wind turbines, and I will predict that wind turbines will be a part of our green energy portfolio. So there certainly is no bias against the product or the concept from this city. But as Councilman Rothschild indicated, I think there's a place for this. I think there are proper locations, whether they're individual turbines for one house or whether it's more of a field of turbines. But to put it in an established residential neighborhood, I think is the whole reason that we have a conditional use permit process. And each application is looked at individually on its merits. It's weighed pro and con, and ultimately the decision makers have to make the tough call. I have not heard anything tonight that has indicated to me that the decision of the Planning Commission was flawed, or that the material presented to the Planning Commission was deficient, or that in any other way there is a basis for me to want to take my position contrary to that of the Planning Commission. That's why we have a Planning Commission. So I, for one, will vote to uphold the decision of the Planning Commission. Any other questions or comments?
Are you voting for B?
I will be voting for B, which denies the appeal of the Planning Commission decision. I'll move.
Second.
The Planning Commission decision is upheld on a unanimous vote. We've already handled 9. We'll go to 10, which is the consent item, A through I. Those items will be acted on with one motion, unless there's a request for removal.
Move for approval.
Unanimous. 11 is a request to appoint a voting delegate and alternates for the 2008 League Annual Conference. Who volunteers? I volunteer Councilman Rothschild.
A second.
Oh, man, just because I'm going doesn't mean I want to sit there until Sunday.
Second.
You're in. It's been moved and seconded.
Bob Hare did it.
Got a unanimous vote, Mr. Rothschild.
How are you doing?
Show of confidence. Item 12 has already been dealt with. It's removed. Item 13 is request to approve the prohibition of parking on both sides of Jasmine Street from 2nd Avenue to Hesperia Road. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Vote. Unanimous. That concludes everything except the council reports and closed session items. For council reports, Councilman Cabriales.
None.
Mayor Pro Tem Allman. Hunter?
I do. Just quickly, I would like to ask the city manager to please do something. several phone calls from irate citizens out there about their water bills and not getting them. They're afraid they're going to be huge. They don't know what they're going to do. Problem is, or what we need to fix it, but whatever it is, hire somebody or get a contractor or something to fix that program.
We'll add my wife to that list, too.
Yeah, well, that's one of them.
I echo Mr. Hunter's comments there in that regard.
Anything else, Councilman Rothschild?
Except that I saw Cher at a show last week in Las Vegas. She's 55 years old. You should all look as good as she does at that age.
You know how much
Incredible
she paid for
show.
that?
You got that much money, you can look that good, too.
Mayor Caldwell, I believe you missed item 14.
Oh, my goodness. To approve the cooperative agreement between the County of San Bernardino and the city to pave certain dirt roads, dealing with the PM10 credit issue, which is very important to the development of Unit 2. Questions or comments?
Move for approval?
Second.
That's unanimous. Item 16 on the closed session item has been removed. Item 17 on the closed session item has been removed, which leaves us with item 18 for closed session. And before we go into closed session, I'll indicate for the record that it is not anticipated that there will be any reportable action coming out of closed session, although that cannot be assured. Therefore, you're all welcome to stay to find out. If you want to leave and go home and watch the Olympics, which is what I would do, we will not be offended if we come out and find a vacant room. And at the conclusion of the closed session, this meeting will be continued until next Tuesday, the 26th, 4 p.m., these chambers, for the one and only purpose, staff, the one and only purpose of the Walmart issue. I do not expect any add-on, sneak-on, come up behind you items, because some of us have important things to do at 5 o'clock. And we will not be here beyond about 5 minutes to 5. Okay?
You're all shaking there.
Good. I now invite the council and appropriate staff into closed session for the purposes enumerated on the agenda.
Get a dolly for this?
Take it on, read.